Hello everyone. Now let's see very interesting chapter, and that is reverse charge mechanism. In reverse charge, as we have seen in section 9 subsection 3, okay, what it says that in case of certain categories of goods and services, government will prescribe the recipient to pay tax and not the service provider or not the supplier. So instead of the supplier, the recipient has to pay tax. So in this section 9.3, government has prescribed goods also and services also. But as far as goods are concerned, they are not in your course. Best. So they are not in course. So we are not going to study the reverse charge applicable to goods. But yes, we are going to study the reverse charge applicable to services. So let's go. Let's see the notification as amended from time to time. And this is the current position right now before us. A big list is given of services. So what is the service that we'll see? These are the notified services or the category of services. This is the actual service provider. The actual service provider who is providing the service, and this is the recipient of that service who is liable to pay tax under reverse charge. Okay, so the actual service provider is not liable, but the recipient is liable to pay tax. So what you have to do in this is remember all these services and who is the person who is liable to pay tax. So two things you have to remember: the service and the recipient. If you forget the actual service provider, that's okay, that's fine. Okay, so let's see one by one. It's a long list, and how the question will come in the exam, let me tell you. Question will be simpler. How simple? That they will not directly ask question on reverse charge. Okay, what is the service or what are the services on which reverse charge applies? Don't expect such silly and simple questions. Question will be in the form of a practical question. Mr. A provides the following services during the period of a month or quarter or year, as the case may be, and you are required to calculate the GST payable. So in that question, a lot of chapters are involved. One thing is the imposition of tax, that is this service taxable in the first place or is it exempt. So we'll see the exemption chapter also, so that also you have to remember. A lot of exemptions are there of services, so you have to remember them also. So the question will be that a whole list, maybe 10-12 services will be given to you. Mr. A provides these following 12 services, calculate his liability to pay tax. 10 marks question. So in this, a few points are taxable, few points are exempt, and a few will be such that they are covered by reverse charge. So if A is providing the service but he is not taxable because it is under reverse charge, means service is taxable but A is not taxable because the recipient has to pay tax. So then what we'll do is, while calculating the liability of A, we will write there that this service is taxable but not in the hands of A. So A is not liable to pay tax, it will be paid by the recipient. On the other hand, if A has received some input services on which he is a recipient and liable to pay tax under reverse charge, then we will include the value of those services in the hands of A and make them taxable. Okay, so in reverse charge, question can be to exclude it or question can be to include it. If A is a supplier, we have to exclude it. If A is a recipient, we have to include it. Okay, so let's see one by one now. And second type of question that can come is an MCQ based question, short question. So 1 marks, 2 mark question can be there. Overall weightage of this chapter will be around 4 to 5 marks. So let's see. First is, the very first one is the import of services. If you import any kind of service in India, import means the supplier is outside India, recipient is in India, and he is importing the service for his business use. Like for example, I'm constructing my office in Mumbai, and for that I have taken service from an architect in US. So the architect, the supplier is in US, the recipient is in India, and I'm going to use it for my business purpose, construction of my office. So in that case, I, Farooq Haque, would be liable to pay tax on this import of architectural service, and the architect of US is not liable to pay tax. Okay. Similarly, if I, Farooq Haque, if suppose the assumption changes, if suppose I am not a businessman, I am just a salaried person. I am working for XYZ company and earning a salary of 10 crores per annum. I am in a big position, a CEO of a company. Okay, so mine is a salary income, and as you know, salary is not liable to GST, so I am not registered or anything in GST. I am not covered. Now I want to construct my own residential house, okay, just besides Ambani's house. So I take service of an architect from Germany. I want a German architect to design my house. So I appoint him and I take his service and I pay him the architectural fees also. In that case, will I be liable to pay tax under reverse charge as a recipient? The answer is no. Why? Because I'm not taking the service in my business. So when people receive service, or rather import service, means receive service from outside India, they can be divided into two categories: business importers who will import it for use in their business or profession, or number two, non-assessee online recipients, those who are not liable to pay GST in India. There are thousands of people like you and me who are salaried people, who might be poor people. We are not registered under GST, we are not there, we are not doing any business, but we import services, we receive services from outside India. Then we are called as non-assessee online recipients. Non-assessee means who is not a registered person. Non-assessee online recipient. So in that case, we would not be liable under reverse charge. And in fact, this import of service itself is exempt, because that foreigner who is providing the service, neither he is going to come and pay tax in India, nor it will be recovered from the recipient. So basically government has exempted those kinds of services. Okay, that we'll see in the exemption chapter later on. So there is one point: business recipient, then taxable; non-business recipient, then not taxable. Then there is one more import service, and that is OIDAR service that we saw in earlier sections also. Online information and data access and retrieval service. This service, OIDAR, is taxable in both circumstances, whether the recipient is using it in business or non-business. And there are separate provisions for that. And in this OIDAR, it is the OIDAR, the supplier, who is liable to pay tax and not the recipient. Okay. So that is given in this first clause. Let's see. It says taxable services. Obviously, if import is of some exempt service, will RCM apply? No. So RCM applies only for taxable services, not for otherwise exempt services. So taxable services provided or agreed to be provided by any person located in a non-taxable territory, means say US, Germany, etc., Japan, and received by any person located in the taxable territory, other than non-assessee online recipient under OIDR. So other than non-assessee online recipient. So in case of non-assessee online recipient, what happens is, in case of OIDR, the OIDAR itself will have to pay tax. Forward charge will apply and not reverse charge. So you put this bracket and write forward charge, FC. It will come under forward charge and not reverse charge. Then who is the person providing the service? Located in non-taxable territory. And who is the person receiving the service? Any person located in the taxable territory other than non-assessee online recipient means a business recipient. So if a business recipient is receiving the service, then he is liable to pay under reverse charge mechanism. So if I make a simple chart for you, then it will look like this. Import of service, by business person, and second is non-assessee. Okay, online recipient. So this is in my own words. Business person means who is using it in business. Now if the importer is business person, then what happens? There are two kinds of services, OIDAR service or any other service. In both the cases, the liable person would be the recipient. Person liable is equal to recipient under reverse charge mechanism. Okay, but for non-assessee online recipient, what will happen? If it is OIDAR service or any other service like architect service and so on and so forth, they are not online services, they are offline, but import is there. So in case of OIDAR, the person liable is OIDAR itself under forward charge. Okay, liable person is the OIDAR under forward charge, and in case of any other service, it is exempt. It is not taxable at all. So neither the actual service provider, like an architect, will not come to India and pay tax, nor the recipient will pay tax, because he is not using it in his business. Okay, good. So you can pause the lecture here and take down this chart, and we'll move ahead. So that is the first one, simple one. Second is GTA, Goods Transport Agency, basically the truck operator. So you can write here transport of goods by trucks. Okay, so if we just frame some examples, Kartar Roadways, Om Transport, Bhatia Transport, and so on and so forth, you will find many transports in your locality. So what these GTA do, I'll frame half of it first. So here is a person who wants to send goods. He is called as the consignor. Okay, and he wants to send goods to somebody called as consignee. Okay, so consignor has goods, and those goods have to go to the consignee. So what he does, he hands over those goods to the GTA, the Goods Transport Agency. We will hand over the goods to a GTA, who will take it to the other place and hand over to the consignee. Okay, so if the goods are going from, say, Mumbai to Jaipur, we want to transport goods from Mumbai to Jaipur. Maybe the consignor is a factory and the consignee is a distributor. So goods will go from factory to distributor, right? So consignor hands over the goods to GTA in Mumbai, and GTA issues a document of title for that. Document of title is given, which is called as a lorry receipt. Okay, or you can call it by any name, consignment note, lorry receipt, whatever. In short, LR. Now this document of title is then handed over by consignor to consignee. He will hand over the document to the consignee that, look, you are mentioned as a consignee in this document, go to the transporter's place and take delivery of the goods. So the consignor takes this document and hands over to the GTA's office in Jaipur and takes delivery of the goods. That's how the business operates, right? So this is called as business of goods transport agency, when he issues the document of title for the goods, for transport of the goods, and he will deliver the goods to the person who holds this document of title, that is the consignee. So this whole business is called as the goods transport agency business. Now in this, the government has specified that out of these two people, the consignor and the consignee, point is who is the recipient of service, first of all. Then I'll say tell you how the RCM would apply, but first tell me who is the recipient of service. GTA is giving the service of transport of goods, but who is the recipient? The consignor or the consignee? Big question. Who is the recipient of service? So a lot of people get confused here. Some say consignor, somebody will say consignee. I would tell you a simple trick. A trick to determine who is the recipient. One who pays the amount to the consignor is the recipient of service. Simple. Or I can say the liability of payment. Who is going to pay the freight? Who is liable to pay the freight? Is the consignee. Is the recipient of service. So if the consignor hires the transport agency and they are liable to pay the freight, then they are the recipients. So out of these two, whoever is liable to pay freight, whoever is liable to pay freight is the recipient. So recipient is a person who is liable to pay the freight. So if suppose, now why I'm using the word liable? Because sometimes it happens that the consignor first pays the money to the GTA, he pays it on behalf of consignee and later on recovers that money from consignee. So the freight is paid by consignor but recovered from consignee. So if it is recovered separately from consignee, then the liability of freight is on the consignee. So he is the recipient. Consignee would become the recipient. And if consignor is liable to pay and he pays on his own account, then he is the recipient. Or if consignee pays it separately to the goods transport agency, then consignee is the recipient. So whoever is liable to pay freight, okay, the transport charges, is the recipient. So it can be consignor or it can be consignee, right? Very good. So this is the first point. Now what the government says? Government says that out of these two people, whoever is the recipient, if he falls in specified category as defined, as we'll see just now, then the RCM would apply and he would be liable to pay tax. The recipient would be liable to pay tax. If he does not fall in the specified category, any other person, then who would be liable to pay tax? So you would say then forward charge should apply. Forward charge should apply and the goods transport agency should itself be liable to pay tax. Yes, and you are right, it's not wrong. But what the government has done is that it will lead to confusion. It will lead to a lot of confusion that in which case he is liable and in which case the recipient is liable. So what they've done is that if it is given to any other person, then the government has exempted it altogether. It is exempted. Means, so any other person will take an example. Like you are what? You are Miss Neha Gupta, and you, Neha Gupta, wants to transport your household goods to some place. You have joined IIM, which IIM, Ahmedabad, after doing your CA, and you want to shift your household material, articles, to your hostel room or a guest house in Ahmedabad where you're going to stay while you do your MBA course, right? So you hire a truck operator, an agency, to transport your material. He charges some 26,000 from you. for shifting your material from your hometown in Chikmagalur to Ahmedabad. So who is liable to pay tax in this case? Nobody. It will be exempted, right? But if I, Farooq Haque, who is a registered person, so I fall in this category, registered persons. If I take service of a GTA for transporting my business stock, etc., then I would be liable to pay tax under reverse charge mechanism. So let's see who falls in these specified category of recipients. So let's come back and let's see. So we'll read this whole thing again. Again means for the first time. We have not yet read it. So let's see. Services provided or agreed to be provided by a goods transport agency who has not paid central tax at the rate of 6% in respect of transportation of goods by road. Now this sentence will not pay the rate of tax. So this you can forget because rate of tax is not in our course. So I'll not be able to explain you that what is the 6% and what not, what could have happened otherwise. So you can forget this. Okay. In respect of excuse me, in respect of transportation of goods by road, this is the service, transportation of goods by road. Exception we'll see later. Let's see who is the actual service provider, the goods transport agency, and if we provide service to these category of recipients, then the recipients will be liable under RCM. So let's see the whole list. Number 1, any factory registered under the and governed by Factories Act of 1948. Any kind of factory which is registered under Factories Act or governed by the Factories Act. Who is the owner of that factory? He can be anybody. He can be an individual, he can be an HUF. Owner can be individual, HUF, firms, company, etc. Anything. Owner can be anyone. But if he is running a factory and factory is the recipient of service, means factory can be a consignor or a consignee, both ways. It can be a consignor, it can be a consignee, but it is a recipient. Factory is a recipient. Then that factory, the owner of that factory would be liable under reverse charge. Secondly, society. Means if the recipient is a society registered under Societies Registration Act of 1860, means any kind of charitable societies, or under any other law for the timing in force in any part of India regarding societies, so they will be liable. Then cooperative society established under any law. Cooperatives are also either central cooperative or state cooperatives. They both are liable if they are recipient. Then any person registered, see, Farooq Haque was registered under CGST, SGST, UTGST. If we are registered here, we are liable. Then any body corporate established by or under any law, like LIC, GIC, all body corporates, and companies also. Companies are also body corporates. Then partnership firm, any partnership firms, registered or not, they can be registered under the Partnership Act or not registered under any law, including association of persons also, the PF and AOPs, partnership firms and AOPs. Then casual taxable person, CTP, who goes to another state to sell goods for some period of time. He is a wanderer, okay, the old class businessman who would take a briefcase, go to another place, sell some goods, come back. So they are called as casual taxable persons. Okay, so those were the people. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Okay, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Total 7 persons. These 7 persons, if they are recipient, they can be consignor or they can be consignee. CC. They may be consignor, they may be consignee, as I told you. But if they are recipient, then they are liable to pay tax under reverse charge mechanism. Okay. Now, one of the point we saw was registered person registered, clause D. Like Farooq Haque is a registered person in GST. So if I take GTA service, I would be liable, right? But an exception has been given for this clause B, and that exception is given here. Okay, what is the exception? Services provided by GTA by way of transport of goods in a goods carriage by road to means these are recipients, department or establishment of central government or state government or union territory, any department or establishment of the central government like defense department, finance department, these are departments of the central government, state government or union territory, then local authority and governmental agency which has taken registration. See, if they are registered, then this clause D applies and they are liable. So say for example, the Atomic Energy Department of the Government of India is registered. Why is it registered? Are they supplying any taxable goods or services and hence they are registered? No, they are not supplying any taxable goods or services, but still they are registered because there is a section 51 which requires them to deduct tax at source. There's a funda of TDS, tax deduction, under section 51 of CGST Act. This we'll see in detail later on, but the funda is simple. What happens is that if Farooq Haque, who is a taxable person, provides service to these government departments, then what happens that I am liable. I am, say, any kind of a service provider. I provide a service to the government department and I am making a bill on them, an invoice to recover 50 lakh rupees. So what I'll do, I'll charge 50 lakhs plus GST on that. I will recover the GST from government and pay it to the Union Finance Ministry as tax. But government knows that sometimes I may recover the amount of the bill from the department but not pay the GST to the government. I may run away with that money. It may be possible. So what government has done, they have made a chapter called as TDS, and it requires these government agencies who are paying the money to me to deduct tax at source. So they will deduct tax from the amount that they pay to me and deposit it directly with the government. And of course I'll get credit of that. So when I am going to make payment of GST to the government, I will reduce the amount of TDS which has already been deducted, and then I'll pay the difference to the government. So this is chapter of TDS. The chapter comes into picture because government doesn't believe in us, doesn't believe in our integrity. Very bad. Government feels that the suppliers will run away with the GST money and they may not deposit it with the government. So sad, na? Nobody believes in integrity. Very sad. So now the point is, leave that joke, the sad joke. But the point is that if these government departments have to register themselves only because of TDS provisions, because they are liable to deduct tax at source, they are also required to register themselves. So they get registered. Why are they getting registered? Not because they are liable to pay tax on their output services or anything, but because they are liable to deduct tax at source. So if this is the only reason behind their registration, then in that scenario, if they take any GTA service, they will not be liable to pay tax on reverse charge. That service will remain exempt service. Okay, so these are the exceptions. It says only they are required registration under the CGST Act only for the purpose of deducting tax under section 51 and not for making a taxable supply of goods or service or both. Right? So exception of clause D is government and government agencies and state government, and as well as the governmental bodies, local authority. So that is also simple. Then let's go on to point number 3, and that is services provided by an individual advocate. Individual advocates, people who wear black coats and say white lies. That was a joke. So individual advocate, including senior advocates. Senior advocates are designated advocates who are designated as senior by the body of judges of the High Court, and they get certain privileges. Or firms of advocates, advocate firms, by way of legal service. So whatever legal services they give, who? Either an individual advocate or a firm of advocates, okay, directly or indirectly, then that individual advocate or the firm of advocates are not liable, but the business entity to whom they give the service, the business entity to whom they give the service would be liable. Who is liable? The business entity is liable. So what if they give service to non-business entity? That is exempt. So if it is given to business entity, then it is liable under RCM. And if they give service to non-business entity, say for example Mr. Verma is getting a divorce, and the advocate gives service to Mr. Verma to get divorce, will that be liable to GST? The answer is no. So if they give service to a non-business entity, then it is not liable at all. It is an exempt service. So liability arises only when the service is given to a business entity. And when it is given to a business entity, then it comes under RCM, reverse charge mechanism. Okay. And so basically an individual advocate is not liable to pay any tax on his output services. If he gives it to a business entity, then business entity will pay tax. If he gives the service to a non-business entity, then it is exempt. Nobody will pay tax. Then explanation says that legal service means any service provided in relation to advice, consultancy or assistance in any branch of law in any manner, and includes representational services before court, tribunal or authority. So legal services can include advisory also, advisory, consultancy, assistance, etc., as well as the representational services where the lawyer goes and stands in the court of law to plead his case. So both are covered, the consultancy and advisory as well as the representational. But it is covered only when the service is given to a business entity. Like I give an advice to Reliance Industries Limited, then it is liable. The Reliance is liable. Okay. The next point is regarding arbitral tribunal. This is also on similar lines. Arbitral tribunal comes under the Arbitration Act. Okay. And they are not covered by Schedule 3. Schedule 3 gives a list of non-levy items, right? We saw in section 7. In section 7 there is Schedule 3 which says that services which are neither regarded as supply of goods nor regarded as supply of service. But in that we saw courts, that is district court, High Court, Supreme Court or tribunals. Now there when they use the word tribunal, that is tribunal under the normal acts like Income Tax Act tribunal, GST tribunal and so on and so forth. So they are exempt. But this is under the arbitration. So an arbitration tribunal which is there is not covered by Schedule 3. Means it is taxable. This service is taxable service. But who will pay tax? Again, business entity. So if arbitral tribunal gives service to a business entity, that business entity being the recipient will pay tax. Like Reliance of Anil Ambani and Reliance of Mukesh Ambani are at loggerheads. They are fighting and they take their matter to an arbitral tribunal. An arbitral tribunal charges fees to dispose of their matter, to decide the matter, then that fees would be liable for GST. And who will pay GST? The recipient, Reliance. But if arbitration service is given to a non-business entity, then it will be completely exempt. Okay, just like lawyers. The next is sponsorship. Farooq Haque Classes is sponsoring IPL next year. Now you may find it as a joke, but it is not a joke. We are actually doing it. This year that Byju's had sponsored, next year Farooq Haque Classes is going to sponsor IPL. So in that case, Farooq Haque Classes, being the recipient of service, would be liable to pay tax under reverse charge. Okay, and we being a corporate entity, so it says any body corporate or partnership firm being the recipient is liable. So anybody, it is printed like anybody, you just cut it off here. It is any body corporate. Body corporate means any company, corporations, etc. Body corporate. Okay, so how it operates? Simple. I'll explain this point also. So like if we take example of IPL, so IPL is the supplier of service, and Farooq Haque Classes, the name of our company is EduTech Solutions Private Limited. Farooq Haque Classes is a brand name. The company name is EduTech Solutions Private Limited. So there will be a contract between IPL and EduTech Solutions Private Limited, the owners of FHC brand name. And in this, IPL is going to give service to us, sponsorship service. And what is sponsorship service? It is about sponsoring our name in all the material that they publish or on the TV and so on and so forth. IPL will be called as FHC IPL. FHC IPL. So FHC's name is being promoted by IPL. So that is the sponsorship service. And against that, we are going to make a payment to them of 100 crores. So we are the title sponsors and it will be 100 crores. The total fees decided is 100 crores. So we are going to pay it. No problem. So on this 100 crores, who is the actual service provider? The IPL. IPL is the supplier. FHC is the recipient. But as it is a body corporate or partnership firm, it will be liable under RCM. So on the 100 crores that we pay to IPL, we ourselves, FHC, would have to pay the GST to the government. Understood? Simple. The next is 5A. Interesting one. Service supplied by central government, state government, union territory or local authority by way of renting of immovable property. See, what is the service? Renting of immovable property to a person registered under CGST. Important. Government is the service provider, central government, state government, union territory or local authority. These are the service providers, the suppliers. What is the service? Renting of immovable property. This is a service. So government owns a lot of land buildings and they have let it out to us. Who are we? We are registered under the CGST Act. Persons registered. So then this person who is registered person will have to pay tax under RCM. And what if the recipient is not a registered person? If he is not a registered person, then it is exempt. Like if you take a flat, a residential flat from government owns a lot of buildings, a lot of flats, so they let out the flats to you then it is not liable for GST. Then next one, 5B and 5C. These two are actually to be left because they are not in course, but still we'll go through it once. This is supply of FSI, floor space index, for construction of a project, which can be a real estate project or a residential real estate project by the promoter. So here what happens is that here is the owner of land who holds the FSI, the floor space index, which is the allowable construction. So he is holding FSI, and he gives this FSI to the promoter of a scheme who wants to construct a big scheme. So this FSI is transferred to the promoter. So in this case, the promoter would be liable under reverse charge. He would be liable under reverse charge. So this we saw in the last lecture when we were studying section 9, and there was 9.4 in which notification was there, right? But FSI, then development rights and long-term lease, these were excluded from there, from 9.4. They are included in 9.3. Okay, so one is FSI, 5B, then 5C deals with long-term lease. Long-term lease, that is 30 years and more, by a person against consideration in the form of upfront amount. That is, upfront amount means the premium that you pay. Premium, it is called a salami, it is called as cost, price, whatever you call. It is the lump sum amount which is paid upfront. Okay, so that is upfront amount, the lump sum, which is called as premium, salami, cost, price, development charges, or by any other name, and or the periodic rent. Later on, periodic rent will also come. So first you pay a lump sum and then you pay the periodic rent. So the promoter who pays it will be liable under reverse charge. So the owner of land doesn't have to collect and pay tax. The promoter who is paying this rent or paying the upfront amount will pay the tax directly under reverse charge. So that is also simple. Okay, the next one is also an interesting one. So therefore I took that small break to have water. You should also take a small break, because next one is a very important one. Okay, this is services provided or agreed to be provided by government. So when it says government, it includes central, state or local authority. So it says services provided. Services provided or agreed to be provided by government or local authority, excluding, but leave that excluding part first, come directly here. Who is the actual provider? Government or local authority. To whom is it provided? Business entity. Provided to any business entity. Then this business entity would be liable under reverse charge mechanism. Okay, that business entity who receives the service from the government or local authority will be liable to pay tax under reverse charge. Now here services would mean those services which are taxable services, of course, not the exempt ones, only taxable services. But then there is an exclusion. Okay, exclusions means that in these cases, the excluded cases, I know many of you must have said that they are exempt. No, here they are not exempt. They are liable, but the government itself will pay tax on forward charge. So what are these? Number one is renting of immovable property. Now this renting is excluded from this 6 number, but it is covered by 5A, point number 5A that we just saw. So it is excluded from 6 but covered by 5A separately. So in any case, reverse charge is going to apply there. But in the second point, there are 3 services. Services by Department of Post by way of speed post, express parcel post, life insurance and agency services. Department of Posts, what happens is that they give a lot of services, but these 4 are taxable services. Other than these are non-taxable services. For Department of Post, only 4 services are taxable. This we'll study in the exemption, the whole exemption list later on. We'll study this point. But right now you remember this, that these are taxable services, taxable under forward charge. Means the government who is providing these services would itself be liable to pay tax. So in case of the Department of Post, there are 4 services which are taxable: speed post, express parcel post, life insurance and agency service. I'm not going to in detail right now. I'll explain this in exemption part, exemption chapter. Then services in relation to aircraft or vessel, vessel means a ship, inside or outside the precincts of a port or airport. Whether the service is given inside a port or outside the port, both are taxable. In relation to aircraft or vessel, it can be maintenance service, it can be different kinds of services. And transport of goods or passengers. Passengers or goods also means, basic example is the railways. Railways is run by the central government, right? And they provide transport service for passengers while you travel to different places, right? Or it is also given for goods, freight. Railway freight is also there. But as you know, even if you don't know, I'll just give you a hint that AC, when you travel in AC compartment, 3-tier AC or 2-tier or first class, that is taxable. But if you travel in railways in that dabba, local dabba, non-AC dabba, then it is exempt. It is not taxable. That we'll study in the exemption chapter. So okay, so anything which is beyond these services, if any other service is given to a business entity, then it will be covered by reverse charge. Okay. Then next, and these services 1 and 2, 1 is covered by 5A, so anyways it is covered by reverse charge, and this 2 has 2 implications. If these services are given to any person, they will be chargeable under forward charge. They are taxable, number 1, they are taxable, but under forward charge, number 2. So 2 points to be remembered. They are taxable but under forward charge. Then next is a simple one. Services provided or agreed to be provided by a director of a company or a body corporate to the said company or the body corporate. So whatever directors are appointed by us and we pay them the board fees, the director's fees, who is liable to pay tax on the director's fees? The company is liable. Company or body corporate will be liable and not the director. So director is not liable, but the company or the body corporate will be liable. He is not a film director, huh? Then services provided or agreed to be provided by an insurance agent to insurance company. Person carrying on insurance business means insurance company. So agent is providing service to LIC, for example, for getting clients. So LIC, who is the recipient of service, would be liable to pay tax. So whatever commission they give to their agents, the LIC companies, life insurance company or the other insurance companies, would be liable to pay tax. Then next is the recovery agent of a bank, giving service to bank. Recovery agent is the person who recovers the loans on behalf of banks, right? So the banking institution or the company or the financial institution or the NBFC would be liable in this case under reverse charge. Simple point. Then services by members of overseeing committee to RBI. The RBI will be liable to pay tax under reverse charge. Then services by way of transportation of goods by a vessel. So here comes the ship. Transport of goods by vessel from a place outside India up to the custom station of clearance in India. Up to the custom clearance in India. Means the international freight. It is called as the international freight also. Okay, so in case of this international freight, what happens? The importer who is importing the goods is liable. The importer would be liable to pay tax under reverse charge. Now this is an interesting case. You just look at the person who is giving the service first. Person located in non-taxable territory to a person located in non-taxable territory. Very interesting. Person located in non-taxable territory to a person also located in non-taxable territory. Okay, so I'll explain you this point. How does this happen? This is the person 1 based in USA, and here is a person 2 based in UK. Okay, so person A is supplying goods to person 2 in UK, but this person 2 has a branch in Mumbai. So he has asked person 1, that is from US, the seller, to supply goods to the branch in Mumbai. So goods are coming here. Goods are coming to Mumbai, but the persons are outside India. Okay, so then this branch, which is the importer, and it not necessarily be a branch, it can be a third party also. This importer who is importing the goods, who is receiving the goods, will be liable to pay tax under reverse charge mechanism. So it is not person 2 of UK, but this importer in India who is liable to pay tax. Because goods are coming in, so there has to be some importer. This importer would be liable to pay tax under reverse charge. Read it again. Service by way of transportation of goods by a vessel, means ship, from a place outside India. Goods are transported from a place outside India up to custom station of clearance in India, means goods are coming into India. Okay, but who is the person giving the service? Located in non-taxable territory, means the ship in charge, the ship company, is in non-taxable territory to a person located in non-taxable territory, means they are giving service also to a person located in non-taxable territory. So the ship is also foreign and the person is also foreign, but goods are coming to India. Then that importer would be liable to pay tax. The importer, whoever is the importer, will be liable to pay tax. The reason behind this is very simple. Because the ship is of foreign country, the person to whom they have given service is also foreign country. So those people are not going to come to India and pay tax. But there will be some importer, the buyer, you can say the buyer of goods, the importer is there. That importer is in India, we can catch hold of him and recover tax. So that is what the government has done. They have caught hold of the importer and recovered tax from him. The next is a very simple one. the author, music composer, or the photographer, or the artist who has got the patents and copyrights. So this is for copyrights basically. So he is giving it to use to a publisher or the music company or the producer, and these people would be liable. So whatever royalty they pay to the author, they will be liable to pay the GST on reverse charge. Then taxi driver or rent a cab operator to any person, then this any person is liable. This is in case of radio taxi or a passenger transport service provided through electronic commerce operator. So this also we saw the other day. Then supply of lottery, the state governments do it, but the distributor or the selling agent who is there, who is appointed by the government, will have to pay tax. That is simple. Then DSAs, direct selling agents who are there, services supplied by individuals as direct selling agents other than body corporates, partnership or limited liability partnership firm to bank or non-banking financial companies. Okay, but other than body corporates. So if these are body corporates or partnership firms, then forward charge would apply. In all other cases, the reverse charge would apply. So if this DSA is an individual, so now here it is given individual direct selling agents other than body corporate, partnership firm or LLP providing service to banking company or a non-banking financial company located in taxable territory, so they would be liable. Who are DSAs? These are the people who call you guys. I am talking from HDFC Bank, a credit card has been approved in your name, kindly give your address, right? So those are DSAs, direct selling agents. They give service to bank, they get commission for all the business that they do on behalf of the bank. So that commission is liable in the hands of the banking company itself. Then next is business facilitator, service provided by business facilitator to a banking company. Here also the recipient is a banking company and the banking company would be liable. Similarly, business correspondents are there, provided by an agent. Services provided by an agent of a business correspondent to the business correspondent. So the agent is the actual service provider, but the business correspondent who is receiving the service will be liable. Just remember the names here. The next is security service, that is service provided by way of supply of security personnel provided to a registered person, So that registered person would be liable under RCM. But here again, because they say registered person, so again that same exception would come, that if the department of the central government or the local authority or the governmental agency are registered just because of TDS requirements, then they would not be considered under RCM for this purpose. So that is the exception given, provided that nothing contained in this entry shall apply to department or establishment of the central government, state government, union territory, local authority, governmental agency which has taken registration just because of section 51 requirement, that is TDS requirement. And secondly, a registered person paying tax under section 10 of the said act in a composition levy. So that was it. That was the whole notification on reverse charge. Interesting one. So you have to just go through it at least 3 to 4 times and try to remember as much as possible.